We must go back to the beginning, where all tales begin. It is a shared feeling, although seldom spoken about, and even less shared. For you, the player, have once again spawned in a new world, and as always, you are alone. You may make efforts to upgrade your tools, armor, and weaponry, for you know all too well that these lands can be unforgiving. Through countless interactions with this world, you are constantly reminded of what was. Towering buildings and structures left in rubble and ruin, and the mechanisms that once powered them are too few and far in between. Reminiscent of the past, you try to remember, and it is within this remembering where speculation and legend intertwine, that the truth may lie buried underneath its suspicious sands. Here, among the lost legends, you attempt to recall your kind, a forgotten race of engineers. The engineers and the builders, although different, were as one people. Where buildings could not achieve the level of functionality required, mechanisms were invented to match. And where mechanisms were limited in aesthetics, the buildings complemented. While it was akin to a growing era of prosperity, a certain problem kept reoccurring between the two races. The engineers believed that future and forward thinking was absolute. Results were everything. The builders, however, believed that there were lines that are best left uncrossed, lest they aggravate powers far beyond their control. Eventually, after many disputes, the matter was seemingly quelled. Inventions were allowed as long as they stayed outside the realm of toying with life and death. Hence, artificial life, or false life, creation was forbidden. That was until the festering began. Reports slowly trickled in from villages and towns of residents disappearing for days, only to be found dead and already rotting in the outskirts of these settlements. It didn't take long for major cities to start having the same reports. Unfortunately, by that time, no amount of investigation could have prevented or prepared those unaffected by what was coming. Those that had been reported dead and buried crawled out of their very graves, seeking to eat those still alive. Those that had decomposed to the point of skeletons remaining took up bows to shoot. Spiders once harmless grew 3 times their size. Defenses were the utmost priority between builders and engineers alike, each doing their part to stave off and find a way to reverse this mysterious corruption in the land. Makeshift cannons were invented, but were not always accurate. So the engineers broke code and worked on an invention that still contained the deadly potential of TNT shot from the cannons. Hence, a metallic walking time bomb that exploded when close to its programmed target was created. At first, this was alarming to the builders, for this was exactly the kind of inventions that were banned. But this alarm quickly turned into celebration, as the new bombs were extremely effective against the surging threat of enemies. The engineers were encouraged and given express permission to continuously make inventions to counter the threat, and that they did. With their vast knowledge of redstone, they shortened the time of the explosions, reconstructed it in large numbers, increased the intelligence of this new invention, and categorized it as a mechanical. They even went as far as giving it a green foliage-like covering to increase its deadly potential. It wasn't long before it was dubbed the name Creeper. Unknown to them, the cities were already infected and rotting on the inside, and so were the inventions. The event, better known as the punishment, was catastrophic. The very same day that corpses overran every major city, the creepers turned on their masters, blowing up the very same walls they were programmed to defend. They opened up uncountable breaches that led to the demise of many. The remnant races of the builders and engineers alike fled in different directions with those closest to them, who were believed to be uninfected. And thus they scattered across the lands, desperately searching for an answer to the end the madness that had begun. It was in this flight that the best fighters of each group banded together as military units in their respective places to venture into the fabled hellscape known as the Nether, through portals made of the darkest and hardest of stones. The others that remained continued on in search of answers and places safe from the festering. While moderate to mild success was found through buildings and even more inventions, there hardly seemed to be a final answer to the problem. Forced to give up the reassurance and warmth of the sunlight, both races fled underground, and although the caves themselves were both treacherous in terrain and packed with the festered, giant spiders and creepers, strongholds were constructed out of stone and brick. Iron doors were installed after wooden ones left costly mistakes. Experiments were executed without question, as desperation felt as physical as a family member at dinner tables. Alchemists and librarians were the most important professions at the time, all in an attempt to bring back hope to the grim races. It was through research that the discovery of magic and a possible alternate dimension emerged. Mechanics of communication were invented and now possible between the different strongholds. The bravest of fighters attested to the difference in power with magically infused weapons and armor when fighting off encroaching festered. Finally, the tides had begun to turn in their favor, but they were already much fewer in number and tired of fighting for their lives. So it came down to two decisions, two that will carve the flowing course of history. They would either leave as one people, using magic to escape into the alternate dimension, or go even deeper still into the earth to find refuge within its depths. Unable to come to a unanimous decision, the majority of the builders left to go through the alternate dimension, as they were the librarians who had made and pursued the discovery of it. However, some stayed due to uncertainty of safety and a clinging to the familiar. The surviving engineers stayed, but made a promise to come for them should they need it. And so they separated on that day, albeit unwillingly, or so the story goes.